Sarah found the envelope on a Tuesday. Not a dramatic Tuesday. Not a Tuesday where anything else was wrong. A regular Tuesday. Dishes in the sink, leftovers in the fridge, kids' backpacks on the floor by the door. She was looking for the car insurance renewal, going through the filing cabinet they never really organized, and her hand found an envelope that had no business being there. Thick, sealed. Her name wasn't on it. Nobody's name was on it. She opened it. $8,000. Cash. Rubber-banded in 2 stacks of hundreds. And her first thought, her very first thought, before anger, before confusion, before anything else, was not where did this come from? It was, how long has he been lying to me? That thought, that specific, ice-cold, stomach-dropping thought, that's what we're talking about today. Because the $8,000 wasn't stolen. It wasn't drug money. It wasn't evidence of an affair. It was Marcus's emergency fund, money he'd been setting aside quietly, carefully, responsibly, by every financial standard, doing exactly the right thing, and it was destroying his marriage in a way neither of them saw coming. Here's what nobody tells you about money and marriage. The financial advice world will spend all day telling you to build an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses, high-yield savings account, automate it, protect yourself. And that advice is correct, mathematically, structurally, objectively correct. What it doesn't tell you is what happens when one person in a 2-person financial life decides to do the right thing alone. Because here's the pattern, and I want you to hear this carefully, because this is not a rare story. This is a pattern that plays out in households across this country every single day, at kitchen tables where 2 people who love each other are slowly becoming strangers over a subject neither of them knows how to talk about. Marcus was scared. That's the whole origin story. He grew up watching his parents fight about money, the specific, vicious, recurring kind of fight when there's nothing left at the end of the month and something unexpected breaks. He swore, the way children of financial chaos always swear, that he would never live that way. So when he and Sarah combined finances after the wedding, he felt, for the first time in his adult life, genuinely financially vulnerable, one income disruption away from becoming his parents. So he started saving, quietly, not to hide anything, not because he was planning an exit, but because telling Sarah felt complicated. She'd want to discuss it, want to agree on the amount, want to know where it was. And Marcus had learned somewhere in his childhood that if you talk about the safety net before it's built, something always happens to stop you from building it. So he just built it. $200 a month, cash, into an envelope in the filing cabinet, over 3 years without Sarah knowing. Sarah, meanwhile, was operating on a completely different understanding of their financial reality. She knew what was in their joint account. She thought she knew what was in their lives. Every time she suggested a family vacation and Marcus hesitated, she assumed it was because they genuinely couldn't afford it. Every time she mentioned wanting to take a course, to develop a skill she cared about, $600, maybe $800, and he said we should wait, she accepted that answer. She made smaller choices, quieter choices, gave up things she wanted because she believed they were a couple who couldn't quite afford them. They couldn't afford them. There was $8,000 in the filing cabinet. That's not a money problem. That's a trust catastrophe wearing a financial planning costume.
Here's where I want to stop and ask you something genuinely controversial, because I've seen this argument go both ways and I think it deserves to be said out loud. Some financial advisors, serious ones, people whose advice I largely respect, will tell you that every individual in a marriage should have their own private financial reserve, a just-in-case fund that your partner doesn't know about. Not for anything sinister, just for autonomy. The argument being, financial dependence within a marriage creates vulnerability, and every adult deserves a quiet exit ramp. I understand that argument. In certain situations, controlling relationships, financial abuse, genuine safety concerns, a private fund isn't just reasonable, it's necessary. But here's my question. If your marriage is healthy enough that you don't need an escape fund, why are you building one in secret? And if it's not healthy enough, if you feel like you need a hidden reserve just to feel safe, why are we optimizing the fund instead of addressing the marriage? Tell me in the comments, do you think secret savings is self-protection or a slow betrayal? Because I think how you answer that question says a lot about where you are right now. Let's talk about what this actually costs, not in dollars, in years. Marcus and Sarah have been married 6 years. For 3 of those years, 3 out of 6, exactly half of their marriage, Marcus has been operating a separate financial reality inside their shared financial life. That's not a blip, that's a pattern, that's a habit, that's a relationship with money that explicitly excluded his partner. And here's the math that really hurts. During those 3 years, the decisions Sarah made, the vacation she didn't push for, the course she quietly dropped, the new couch she decided we couldn't justify, those decisions were made on false information. She was optimizing her desires around a financial picture that wasn't real. She was making herself smaller, asking for less, accepting the answer "we can't right now," when the correct answer was "we can, but I haven't told you about the money I've been keeping from you." What does that cost? You cannot put a number on 3 years of someone editing their own wants based on a lie, but you can feel it. Sarah felt it the moment she opened that envelope, not as a dollar amount, as something that happened in her chest, a sort of cold, collapsing feeling, like a floor giving way, like finding out the room you thought you knew has a wall that was always fake.
Now here's where the money math enters, and it is not kind to Marcus's logic. He saved $8,000 over 3 years, $200 a month, which sounds responsible until you realize that the same $200 a month, had it been openly saved together in a joint high-yield savings account at even 4.5% interest, would be almost the same $8,000. And it would be $8,000 that Sarah knew about, that they'd built together, that represented not a secret, but a shared decision. The math is identical. The emotional cost is galaxies apart. And the downstream cost, the couples therapy they're now in at $180 a session twice a month, that's $4,320 a year running. The trust that was damaged doesn't have a price tag, but the rebuilding of it does. And it is not cheap, and it is not fast. The emergency fund Marcus built to prevent a financial crisis created an emotional one that's costing more to repair than the fund is worth. Here's the brutal truth, and I'm going to say it plainly because I think it needs to be said without softening. An emergency fund built in secret is not a financial tool. It is a symptom. It is a symptom of one of 3 things: a relationship where financial communication has completely broken down, a personal fear so deep that it's overriding the basic requirement of honesty in a partnership, or a marriage that one person has already emotionally started planning to leave, even if they haven't consciously admitted that yet. None of those 3 things are fixed by the $8,000. All 3 of them are made significantly worse by it. And I want to be clear, because I know some of you right now are thinking about your own version of this, your own quiet savings, your own envelope, physical or digital, that your partner doesn't know about. And I'm not here to tell you that you're a bad person. Marcus is not a bad person. He's a frightened person doing what frightened people do, building walls and calling them safety. But here's what I want you to hear. The wall doesn't protect you from financial chaos. The wall just means you face the chaos alone, in secret, while your partner faces a different version of reality, also alone, without knowing why things sometimes feel slightly off between you. That low-grade sense that something is being held back, that the numbers don't quite add up, that trust is present but not complete. That feeling, your partner's version of that feeling, is the cost of the secret fund, and it accumulates interest faster than any savings account. The solution, and it's not what you think, the answer is not to close the secret account and hand over the cash. That's a gesture, and gestures aren't solutions. The answer is a conversation that most couples have never had. A specific, uncomfortable, honest conversation about financial fear. Not, here's our budget, not, here's our savings goal, but the real conversation. What are you afraid of? What financial scenario lives in the back of your mind that you've never said out loud? What did money look like in your house growing up? And how much of that is quietly running your behavior right now? Marcus's fear was real. His parents' money fights were real. His need for a buffer was legitimate. None of that needed to happen in secret. It needed to happen in a conversation with the person he chose to build a life with. A conversation where he could say, I need us to have a reserve that I know is there, because I grew up without one and it scares me more than I've told you. That conversation changes everything. That conversation builds something. The secret envelope built $8,000 and cost a marriage its footing. The conversation would have built the same $8,000 and a partnership.
Sarah and Marcus are still married. They're in the therapy sessions, doing the work, saying the hard things. Some weeks are better than others. The money is still in the account. They've kept it, now as a joint emergency fund, now as something she knows about, now as something they both own. It looks the same in the bank statement. It feels completely different. And Marcus will tell you, if you ask him, on a good week, that the conversation he avoided for 3 years took 45 minutes. That the fear he was certain Sarah wouldn't understand, she understood immediately. That she had her own version of it, her own childhood money story, her own quiet terror about being caught without a net, that she'd never said out loud either. 45 minutes. 3 years of secrecy. The emergency fund was never the problem. The silence around it was. So wherever you are right now, whatever version of this story you're sitting inside, I want to ask you one question, and I want you to answer it honestly. Maybe not in the comments, maybe just to yourself. Is there a financial truth in your relationship that you're managing around instead of talking through? Because that truth, whatever it is, whatever it costs to say, is cheaper than the alternative